Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this little blustery Tuesday evening here in my corner of the world. Light snow, nice and chilly. Hopefully, you're all having a wonderful, wonderful evening. And tonight is going to be an art stream. Good evening, Icarus. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing, my dear? But tonight we're going to be doing a little bit of nature photography, and a little bit of, tiny bit of urban photography. I went to Niagara Falls. About a week and a half ago for my birthday. I went to see my lovely Rosie, my Canadian Rosie, and I had a blast. It was a great way to start age 36. And we'll be editing some of the images that I shot from there. All of these were digital. I did not take my film camera with me to Niagara Falls, primarily because I was traveling by Amtrak. I needed to travel light, so I only brought the one camera. So I brought my digital. So yes, and so far so good. It's I've already eaten most of my stream snacks. No, tonight I am doing my streams this week, and then next week I will be off. I'm going to Vegas to visit some family, visit my grandmother. I haven't seen her in about five or so years. She's absolutely due for a visit. So, because she's pushing 90, and mobility is not what it once was. So, it'll be interesting. I haven't been to Las Vegas in like 20, almost 25 years. I was 12 when I was last there. So, it'll be interesting. Not looking forward to the plane rides. I mean, I never do. Motion sickness and all that. But it is what it is. So we're going to start tonight with this night shot. Make that a little bigger. Well, so this is all these shots are on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. So what we are looking at here is a shot of the American Falls. You have the American Falls, and then a bit further down we have the Horseshoe Falls, which is that. That's really the star of the show. This is what people come to see. Because these are the Canadian Falls. Well, technically the international boundary splits that in half, but that's considered the Canadian Falls. While this is the boring straight American Falls. And I'm looking across the border into Niagara Falls, New York, with the Niagara Seneca Casino and Hotel right there. And so this is something that is done at night. The both falls, both the American Falls and the Horseshoe Falls, are lit up. Now there's these big, huge sort of like halogen light panels that shine light onto the falls, and the light patterns are always shifting and changing. There's not colored lamps behind the falls lighting it up. There are light sources projecting onto the falls themselves. So we're going to start... Whoop, don't want that. We're going to start with this one. Now, night photography is always tricky. Because, and I'm gonna get a little technical here. I'm gonna talk some shop. In a camera, you have a full range of shutter speeds, and the rule of good evening, Winged. Thank you for your standard greeting. So on a camera, you have a whole range of shutter speeds. And up until not too long ago, with the advent of more modern camera lenses, the rule of thumb, this is what I was taught, was that anything slower than 1/60th of a second, it's recommended you get a tripod for. Because if you shoot slower than that, that is when a camera can pick up the natural vibration of your hand, and you'll have a blurry image. I didn't bring a tripod with me, so the only way to get around that with a digital camera is by firing up what's called the ISO, or the film speed. That allows you in a digital camera to be able to take a picture at the 1/60th of a second threshold or faster. The result is you wind up with sort of a grainy looking image. Now, if I zoom in close on this thing, like we're at 50% of the image size. And you can see the sort of graininess as we get it. Now we're a full 100% in. And you can see the graininess that shows up. And this happens with film too. So a digital camera sensor is sort of replicating the behavior of film here when you're shooting in low light conditions. The reason why that's the case in film is because the higher the film speed, so you go 400, 800, 1600 and higher, the grains of silver in the emulsion are bigger, so you wind up with a grainier image. Whereas you go lower, 200 speed, 100 speed, the grains of silver are very, very tiny, which means you need more light to hit them to get them to react. 800 speed, 1600, 3200, because the grains of silver in the emulsion are so large, you don't need as much light to cause a reaction. Taking that principle, apply it to a digital film sensor, and this is the result. I can actually tell you what speed I shot that image at because we have a wonderful, wonderful thing called metadata. And I can just go right to that image. So this image was shot at ISO 6400. Which is a really, really, really high, it's a really big number. So you wind up with this graininess. So there are ways to try to edit this out in Photoshop. Try to minimize the grain here. But it involves delving into this is called luminance noise. Now, this is something I was practicing a little bit on some of my other images, so let's pull up the how-to, because yay Google. All right. So, first things first. We're going to open the reduce noise filter. Well, first I'm going to make a copy. Do that first. All right. First things first. So we're going to switch to what's called lab color mode. And we do that here, lab color. Yeah. That's right. Now we're in lab color mode. Okay, now we're going to start diving into things called channels. Now, if I'm working in regular RGB color mode, you'd see instead of the individual red, green, blue, and complete RGB, now we have lightness. Now we're going to create a new layer. All right. Now we're going to do lightness. That changed it to black and white because now we're working with just the light sources that are in the image itself. And we're going to make a copy of that because we don't want to We don't want to ruin the original. Okay. Okay. Now this creates a mask. Now we're going to... What am I doing? Glowing edges. Okay. And as you can see, I've done this before. It just hasn't stuck in my brain yet. So what this filter does, this glowing edges filter, is it finds the edges in the photo and highlights them. So all the smooth surfaces are left black. So if we scroll down here, you can see where the light areas in the image are. So we can adjust the width. And let's see. Edge brightness. We don't want it too bright, because the higher the brightness, the more you're going to highlight the noise. And smoothness allows us to blur the light areas, and to also to try to avoid highlighting noise. Okay. Very good. All right. Now, image under adjustments. Let's invert. That's what I wanted. Oops. Didn't want to do that. Okay. So now the light areas are selected. And now we're going to go to blur. Let's do a smart blur. Set the quality to high. The radius actually looks good. That should be around 10. Okay. Let's do another. Oops. Hey. All right, after you play access, now we set this to opacity. It's not going to be, it's not a, it's not major changes. You're just adding subtle differences. Okay. Whoops. Now we flatten that and then change it back to RGB. So we've taken we've taken care of some of the graininess, but not a whole lot, which is fine, especially with an image that I shot by hand with a tripod. Let's see if I can pull up the original, just for comparison's sake. Well, first, let's save this. So let's do a side-by-side. So I notice, and you may not be seeing this because it might not come across your monitors, that there's a slight difference, definitely in the midsection here. It's not as fuzzy as it once was. There's still some, because that's just the nature of night photography. But it has cleaned itself up a little bit, which is fine. It almost makes it look a little painterly, which I'll go with. So we have that. I'd have a better result if I shot this on a tripod with a regular, at a regular exposure instead of, shooting it at 6400 speed handheld. But next time I go to Niagara Falls, or any city for that matter, I will see if I can bring my tripod and get some proper night photography on. So now we'll go to the daytime. Now we'll take a look at the Horseshoe Falls, star of the show. And I loved this sky. I love this sky. So it was a pretty gray day, pretty gray day overall. And so I noticed with this one that the bottom half of the image is pretty dark because I was shooting a lot, mostly for the sky, because this is going to be, in the end, a black and white image because the tonal value is pretty similar throughout. So, easy way to remedy that. So, curves adjustment's fine. I don't need to do anything hue saturation. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to make a selection. Actually, I should go a little higher. And we're going to do a curves just on that selection. And what we're going to do is we're going to brighten that up. And then we're going to just start making some light. We're just going to start removing some of that hard edge. And that is how we very quickly lighten up a section of an image. Because now we're bringing out more of the falls. The side areas are not left in darkness, and we're bringing that more out. So, yeah, I still see a little bit of the line there. That's gone now. Alright, so let's do a little dodge. Little dodge here. It tones. Am I in the wrong layer? Yes, I am. That was the wrong layer. Common problem with artists. Pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever! Why do we even have that lever? Yes, exactly. And we got some bright spots in the clouds that are little hot for my liking. So we're gonna do a little burning, not a lot, not a whole lot. Just we're gonna tone them down not all of them. We want a few hot spots in there. So, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on stream, but the biggest inspiration for me to get into photography as a wee little Brian was nature photography. I had seen the gorgeous landscapes from artists like Ansel Adams, and I saw them and I went, I want to do that. So nature photography was my initial plunge into the medium. And then as I practiced with a camera and looked at more artists, and I'm seeing some works from people like Imogen Cunningham and Edward Weston and a lot of those photographers from the early 20th century, and mind blown. But that was what initially got me started down the path of a photographer, was seeing Ansel Adams's work and realizing I wanted to do that. And I'm in the middle of changing over from Streamlabs to Stream Elements. So right now I've got both bots reminding me of stuff. So yes, thank you, Stream Elements. So not a lot of color information to play with. So I think this image would just look better as a double hydrate. I know. And I think tonight I'll do something that I never ever do. I will show you some of I'll be showing some of my very first photography efforts. You'll get to see some images I shot on my very first rolls as a senior in high school in 2003. Good evening or good morning to you, sir. Welcome, Jay Renzella. Hopefully you are doing well. All right. And since we have color information in the image, we can play with all the sliders when we throw a black and white layer up. Thank you so much, sir. These are, well, you might be familiar with, or at least have seen them, Jay. These are the Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. Not really a whole lot in magenta land, so we'll just leave that at 0. It's the yellows and the reds that are the big colors here. Ah, all right. Well, you will be treated to some epic scenery, I hope. So, fun story. So when I went to Niagara Falls week and a half ago, I walked across this bridge. So it's called the Rainbow Bridge, and with no relation to Jim Henson. Um, so I took Amtrak from Albany to Niagara Falls, New York, and then took a quick cab ride from the train station to the American side of this bridge and walked across. So as I'm walking across, it is sunset. It is getting on towards sunset. So this is my view walking across the bridge, going from the United States to Canada. Which was really, really a wonderful, gorgeous way to wrap up a 6.5 hour train ride. Oh boy. So I'm the only one on the bridge. I'm taking I'm walking across, and I get to the end, and when you get to the end of the walkway, you have to go through customs. So there's this single Canadian Border Patrol agent who I have to see, and he's had a really boring day. So I'm because it's the off season right now. It's not tourist season in Niagara Falls, and so we do the usual thing. He asks, why am I going to Canada? How long I'm there for? Am I, who are, are you seeing anybody? Who's your employer? The usual stuff. So I said, I'm going to see some friends that I haven't seen in a couple of years. I'm gonna be right here, right up the street. You have to tell them where you're staying, because they also ask you if you have a quarantine plan, should you happen to contract COVID. So he asks me how I know, or how I know this friend. And I give him the honest truth, which is Tumblr. That's where I initially met Rosemary, was on Tumblr. And he looks at me dead in the face and he goes, Tumblr? I haven't heard that in a long time. People still use that? People still use Tumblr? First time I've ever had a Border Patrol agent on either side cracking jokes. So he checks my paperwork, he checks my vaccine cards and my COVID test results, making sure that what I've presented to him matches what I've put into the database, into their system. And then he goes, do you have any gifts to declare? And I said, no, I don't have any gifts to declare, anything like that. He's like, so you're seeing some friends that you haven't seen in a couple of years. You didn't bring them any gifts? And then he remembers that I said that I'm staying in a hotel right up the street. Actually, the hotel I'm staying at is just next to this almost Space Needle looking thing here. He remembers I'm staying at a hotel, and he goes, wait a minute, you're not staying with them, you're not staying at their house, you're staying at a hotel, you're paying for that. No, screw them, they don't need any gifts. I think I made his day, because, very few people going across, so that is the first and only time I've ever had a Border Patrol agent with a sense of humor. But yeah, this was my view, walking across the Rainbow Bridge into Niagara Falls. So, quite nice. All right, we are getting near wrapping up this one, I think. The only places border agents have ever been nice to me are Taiwan and Nepal. Did you happen to catch them on good days, or they just believe that, you really shouldn't be jerks to travelers? I was trying to fly into San Francisco or Minneapolis. Is that Minneapolis, St. Paul? If I go through LA or heaven forbid Boston, it is ho, I'll bet. All right. So, the day after my birthday, Rosemary took me to a couple of places near the falls. The first place we stopped at was called the Niagara Parks Butterfly Conservatory, where there are a variety of dozens of different butterflies. It's you walk in, and after you pay and you get in, it's a tropical sort of humid environment. It's this indoor space, and you get all sorts of beautiful butterflies. So I'm going to edit a few of those on stream. So let's pull up a couple and let's begin. Start with you. I think it's just a general attitude. Never, ever, ever fly international into Boston. I'm glad you like them, sir. Yeah, those came out really, really well. This was like the perfect day because the inside of the conservatory is just windows, so it's a lot of natural light coming through, and it was an overcast day, which overcast days are a photographer's best friend because it's when if you're shooting in color, it's when your colors are most accurate. You're not having to account for harsh sunlight. So there's not going to be if you're good, you won't have to necessarily do a lot of color correction in post-production. If it's an overcast day, it's like, oh, bliss. And so that was the case with a lot of these images. So we're going to start with this one. There's only a few of the butterfly specimens of the names that I actually remember. This is called an owl butterfly for obvious reasons. To brighten you up a bit. Yeah, I'm hoping some of the ones that the couple that I posted on your Discord, those could make interesting watercolors. I would love to see somebody try to tackle that. That'd be nice. I mean, yes, we could have fun with the hue saturation. There's a lot of yellow in this. But I don't need to tone it down that much. Jay, has your Kickstarter gone live yet? Or is that later in the day, your time? Because if it has, feel free to drop a link. Jay Renzella, for those of you who don't know, is an amazing woodcut artist, and he's been working on a graphic novel. Goes live in just a couple of minutes. All right. Well, when that does, drop the link. Outstanding. Support your artists, friends. They'll make better use of the income than Amazon. Well, you know me. It's fun with gradients time. I think that's a bit too much, though. At least on the right. Let's turn down our opacity by half. Oh yeah, much better. Okay. Anyway, we can highlight this little guy. This butterfly conservatory was really gorgeous. We did a couple of loops through it because it was a lot of fun. In fact, I had made a couple of friends. I was in the middle of taking some pictures, and I had a few land on me. Let me see if I can show one to you. There's... Yeah. Yep. We had a... There was one trying to make friends. And something else that I really liked about my trip, they're much smarter about COVID and vaccines than we idiots here in the States. To get into any restaurant in Ontario, you must be fully vaccinated and you have to present photo ID and your proof of vaccination to get into any and every restaurant. Any indoor area, regardless of vaccine status, must be masked. Oh, it was such a wonderful job. Hey! Hey, all right, your Kickstarter is up. Excellent. Go throw money at him. I will be doing that. I'll be doing that after my stream is done. Excellent. Good luck, sir. May you rake in all the cash. And if any of you out there who are watching have any art you'd like to share, provided it's safe for public consumption, pop a link to it. Well, so this was one that I posted in the Discord server that Jay Renzella was talking about. So I was also practicing my macro photography while I was here. Because this isn't necessarily with a zoom lens. This was me getting pretty close and clicky. It's all going to feed my crippling rent and food addictions. Does this enable my disgusting Regency habits? No, I do wish you, Hey! A tiny dragon on fire has appeared! Good evening, my dear. Welcome on in. God, I love that Twitch has given all of its affiliates more emote slots. Oh, thank you for the bits! Thank you for the bits. I don't know why my alert didn't trigger for that, but okay. But thank you for the bits, my dear. Icarus has backed Jay Renzella's Kickstarter. It launched about 4 minutes ago. The link is further up the chat, but Jay, if you want to post that again, go right ahead. Look, we're all artists. We have to support each other. So, I have no problem letting you shamelessly promote. again, artists will make better use of the money, better use of support than Amazon. So Tiny Dragon says you are joining us. I'm editing some images that I shot when I was in Niagara Falls a week and a half ago. I did some early edits of a little night photography. Oh, that's overlooking the American Falls. And then we have the Horseshoe Falls by day. And we did one. Now we're on the Butterfly Conservatory in Niagara Falls. So now we're on this one. So as I was explaining earlier on the stream, I was explaining how I got into photography in the first place, and it was in 2003, my senior year of high school, where at the time I wanted to be a writer. And at that point in my senior year, I already took all of the elective, I had the required classes for graduation, and I had some empty slots in my schedule in the spring semester. And I never ever could get into the creative writing class because when registration opened for the electives, they did it based on alphabetical last name. Before I changed my last name to French, it used to be Williams. So by the time it was my turn, the creative writing class always filled. And I tried 2 years, I tried getting into this class and just last name W, and by the time it got to me, it was already full. So I couldn't have like 2 study halls. That's a third of my day. So my guidance counselor was like, well, what about like an art elective? And initially I'm just like, because drawing is not my strong suit at all. And I'm like, all right, well, and I was already in music. I was already in choir. And she's like, well, how about photography? And I went, all right, sure, fine. So I entered this Photo 1 class, and I start learning how to shoot film on a 35mm camera. And I start looking at images of Ansel Adams and his beautiful landscapes, particularly of like Yosemite National Park. And the more I looked at Ansel Adams images, the more I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. So to that end, I am going to show you something these are not published on my website or any social media. I'm going to show you some of the very first images on some of the very first rolls of film that I ever shot. So we're going back to 2003. You're going to get to see a few of Brian's 17-year-old me's first crack at photography. So let's see. Oh yeah, let's see you. These were shot on Kodak Tri-X. so we have that one. God, I was so just looking at early, like, and the font that I used as a sort of copyright. That's the Homestar Runner. That's the font that Strong Bad uses for his like his teen girls squad. Shows you where we were in 2003. So yeah, let's show you a few more. We got some ice and some water flowing under the ice. We got a little waterfall action here. So yes, these are some of the very, very first rolls of film I ever shot when I was a budding photographer. Show you a couple more. Yep. Yeah, I'm in the middle of changing over all of my alerts and timers and everything from Streamlabs to Stream Elements. So that's why we have a little bit of a lull here, because I haven't fully shut off Streamlabs and have not yet fully enabled Stream Elements. So that'll be fixed. Oh. I know I have one more, I think. One more roll here. Yeah. Because we also did stuff with color film. This is the bridge that led to my street. Which is now gone. That bridge is now gone. That bridge is a very, very interesting story. There's a local legend downstate New York called the Vanishing Hitchhiker, which is set on the bridge and on the street where I grew up. And that'd be it. My street and this bridge was on an episode. I forget what the name of the... April will know. On the History Channel. And that's how, actually, the first thing, that's how we kind of knew that April and I would be together, because when I went to college, and when April and I were just starting to get to know each other, so she asked me, where I was from, and I said, you've probably never heard of it, because 95% of the student body of SUNY New Paltz was, was from Long Island. And I'm like, no, if I tell you, you've never heard of it. And she's like, all right, fine. And she's like, try me. And I said, Ramapo. I was like, oh, is that that's for the Vanishing Hitchhiker story? And I'm like, you've heard of it? And 17 years later, we're still together. So, yeah, a little glimpse into 2003. Back when I was just starting to get into photography, which became an obsession. I didn't. 17-year-old Brian did not think that he would have works in art galleries and be part of an awesome, awesome art community on the internet in the form of Artist Back Alley and know all you wonderful people and be sharing my work with you. 17-year-old me would have been like, nah. Oh, that is an old link. I need to update that alert. Oh. So, out of curiosity, interesting. So if we... There we go. That's better. That's something I'm noticing as I'm changing over to Stream Elements. Just seeing all the alerts and timers and commands that I had that I'm like, oh, I don't use that one. I don't use that one. That one needs to be very heavily updated. Oh, that's a gorgeous black and white. What if I do max black? No, no, no. Put that default. Ooh. I'm keeping that one. That one, we'll get rid of you. That one I don't think works as well. That's not as successful. Wow. I'm going to scroll back up in the chat there. Just so I've got Mr. J. Renzella's Kickstarter. That way, as soon as I'm done here, I can be like, here, have some money. All right. So the second place that we went to after the Butterfly Conservatory, we'll get back to the butterflies, don't worry, was this place called Bird Kingdom. And basically the long and the short of it is that someone who had emigrated to Niagara Falls had all these different varieties of birds and created this sort of aviary for them. And it's a little bit of a hokey place to start. Like, feels more like roadside carnival attraction. But then once you get into the aviary proper, things become a lot more interesting. Like, the first part of the aviary was the small bird aviary, and it's your common bird. It's an open air indoor. It's like none of the birds are in cages. So we start off with your finches and your canaries. I do love birds. If this was not obvious, he says with a cockatiel on his shirt. My sister used to have little finches as pets. Oh, that's better. Let's reduce some of that by a bit. Yep, very adorable little finch. Oh, when I grew up, I used to call our house the zoo because we had my stepbrother who basically wanted to be Steve Irwin when he grew up. I think he had like 8 reptiles, like 6 snakes, various types, and a couple of lizards. One of them being an iguana. I remember that. All right, let's shift up the soundtrack here because we can't go drifting into music that will get me really in trouble. So how about you? Okay. And if you've been joining me this evening, thank you so much for spending some of your Tuesday evening with me. I do very, very much enjoy the pleasure of your company. So thank you. Thank you for spending some time as the snow falls very lightly outside, reminding us that winter is indeed coming. May you all get through this winter much better than House Stark. So the soundtrack I was playing earlier, if you're curious, is from the video game Transistor. Now I've started a new soundtrack. This is a remix album using music from the PlayStation 1 game called Wild Arms. It's a JRPG. Oh, Burb. Yeah, I'm gonna be putting some of the nature ones up on Redbubble, Icarus. Which, if you want to throw money at me, I do have a Redbubble store. You can get to it by typing an exclamation point art. It'll take you to my card page, which is a link aggregate. It has the links to there it is. It popped up twice. So the link at the card page, it's the link aggregate that'll take you to my website. It has the links to my Redbubble shop, my Patreon, social media, all that fun stuff. So if you want to get some of my images on various products, go check out my Redbubble and throw me a penny or two if you want. I did add a couple of the a week ago. I think I added a couple of the ones that I took in the cemetery on Long Island, where I was for Halloween. I also put up I don't know if you remember this, if you saw me do this on Picardo last year. Remember that Season's Greetings pieces of grid that I made with the red and the green fabric? That is also up now on my Redbubble, so that could be one hell of a holiday card. Was Wild Arms the sequel to Wild Legs or Domesticated Arms? I can't remember. I mean, that Pieces of Season's Greetings is also going to be my patron print for December. So if you are a subscriber to my Patreon at the $5 a month level or higher, you get a physical 4x6 print from me every 2 months. An image of my choosing. And yeah. $10 a month, you get a 5x7. But $5 a month minimum, and you get physical artwork from me. What else? So after going through the small bird aviary, you then go into a much bigger aviary that has a lot of the tropical birds. Starting with this fine fellow. Who just sat there all nicey nice. Beautiful plumage. You hadn't told me, Icarus. I do love that you hoard my images as greeting cards. That just gives me warm fuzzies. Here, I love you, I love you. Here, have some death. It's wonderful. Yeah, not a whole lot in the way of curves adjustments. Maybe a tiny bit brighter. Remember thou art mortal. So at our Ren Fair, at the New York Ren Fair, well, there used to be, but she came up for the Capital District Ren Fair, which is our local single weekend Albany Ren Fair. There is a character who plays a Puritan, and the character name she goes by Temperance Below. And she carries around a sign all throughout fair that says, "The Almighty loathes," and there's a little area, a little slate area where she writes something in chalk, and it changes all the time. I actually don't think we need to do a whole lot of. That would be funny, though. We don't need to do a whole lot of hue saturation. So let's just take away all the yellow in this bird. Ah! This is what we could. This is not anything. It's just me having a good time. I mean, we could just you play with the hue slider, and suddenly we're very trippy. Very, very, very sort of psychedelic. It's a trails, man. Disco burb, yes. God, my poor hairdresser. He's talking about some friends when they lost their favorite cat. They saved his skull and keep it in a lovely box. And she made a face and goes, "I remember. I have to remember who I'm talking to. That's normal for you." Apparently, you have a bit of a brand there, Icarus. Disco burb. The system is down. The system is down. Busting out yet another Homestar Runner reference. Dating myself in the process. That's alright. You all love me. So the great thing about shooting in such like when I saw these come off my camera, I was just like, oh, I'm not gonna have to do a whole lot of work on these at all. This is great. Yeah, I don't think the black and white works for this one. Not as successfully, anyway. Yeah, nah. We'll move on. Move on to one of my favorite birds that I saw there. I know it's not what the species is called, but I called this the girl with the pearl earring bird. Because the head is in that sort of same like three-quarter position. Like if I flip it, whoops, horizontal, not vertical. She does. The bird with the pearl girl. This one needs some work. I'll brighten that up a bit. I'd like to think if Vermeer kept burbs, this might be one of them. For all I know, he might have. Yeah, let's brighten you up a bit. There we go. Our friend the dodge tool. Yep, too much. Now we're starting to get green. Don't want to do that. No. In a completely unrelated topic, I did see information that we are going to be having, at the moment, a PAX East in Boston in late April. And it will be a fully vaccinated event. Everyone's wearing masks regardless of vaccination status. And they're going to be checking vaccination proof and all of that. Although the Boston, I don't know if you've ever been to the Boston Convention and Expo Center, but it is huge. So how they will enforce that for like 75,000 people will be interesting. But I am really, really hoping I can go, because I did not go in 2019 because I was broke. And it's very expensive to do that by yourself. But I miss conventions. I miss conventions so much. If I wasn't going to Vegas next week, I'd probably be going to Philadelphia in about 2 weeks for PAX Unplugged, which is all tabletop and board games. Gonna lurk while you did it real quick. All right. Not a problem. I'll be on for another half hour or so. 'Cause alas, it is still a work night. Yeah. No work, only art. No work, only chocobo. Oh, I said this on my stream last night when I was playing Final Fantasy IV, but now I've got a little bit of a bigger audience tonight. So hopefully hopefully I'm going to be doing a stream on Christmas Eve, because it falls on a Friday. So I might be playing a game or, doing artwork or whatever, but I'm hoping to do a stream on Christmas Eve. But also during that stream, I also plan to do something really, really special. So I went to Barnes & Noble this past Sunday, and I got stricken with a strong desire to impulse purchase, which is very rare for me. I don't usually buy things on a whim. But I saw this book, and I needed it in my hands and in my possession. And if I do a stream on Christmas Eve or right around there. Good evening, Battle Chaser. Welcome on in. Make yourself at home. So if I end up doing a stream on Christmas Eve, I'm going to read the book that I purchased at Barnes & Noble on Sunday, and it is called Bob Ross's Happy Little Night Before Christmas. You can now understand why this was an impulse purchase. Oh, And if you want one of your own, like I said, they're at Barnes& and Noble. How are you doing, Battle Chaser? It's been a while. Hopefully life is swell for you. All right. Let's see how you look in black and white, as is my custom. Not too bad. Not too bad. Oh, I prefer the color better. All right. Let's see. Let's see what more can I throw at you guys for the time being? I'm not going to edit this one, but I really like this one. It's a little grainy. I call this one Big Gay Niagara Falls. So you saw the image of the one of the horseshoe of the American Falls in color. This is when they were flashing rainbow colors on the Canadian Falls. Busy as all get out, but doing well. Yes. No, the next one I am going to edit is another night one. So when you don't have a tripod, you try to make do with any sort of uh natural formation, or as I was doing, I was putting this on a rock. So this is a long exposure. And because it's a long exposure, you see how the falls are just, they look like streaks. Because I think this was like a 1.5 second exposure or something like that. And when I saw this, I'm just like, it looked like they were pouring green and orange hot liquid into the falls. So first things first, let's straighten this image out. We're getting close. I think that'll do. Yes, much better. Center that. There we go. Again, when you don't have a tripod and you're trying to do night photography, you have to make do with what you have. If I have room for it, next time I take the train all across the state, I might be much have better images. But I actually do like this one. So Jay Renzella broadcast chatting with us from the future. Yes, that's now I'm curious as to what my exposure time for that image was. Oh, metadata, where are you? That was 25mm manual as shot. That was a 1 second exposure. Which is why the mist looks a little bit blurry, and why we have this sort of, this sort of cloud here. But I really liked the effect, so I'm like, okay, I'll keep this one. Although that could also work as a black and white. Where's my exposure? There it is. The mist looks a bit like Oogie Boogie with itty bitty arms at his sides. Now I am not going to be able to unsee that. There, thank you, Tiny Dragon. Nah, that's going to be... No, we're getting too far into the... Let me go a little... Adjust the exposure a little bit more. Oops. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. God, gradients make things so much better. But yeah, I figure doing an art stream of mostly nature photography is a bit of a change of pace from my usual either death or figure studies or nude, or my nudes over on Picardo. Nice little change. Again, it's how I got into photography, was nature photography. So it's like it's good from time to time to sort of go back to the well. Remember why you fell in love with photography in the first place. Why you initially fell in love with photography. Or, your art mediums of choice. Oh, I like that. Ooh, that's what happens when we get rid of all the yellow. That's interesting. That just becomes creepy. But I like that. I like that. Oh, I see some backers on Jay Renzella's graphic novel Kickstarter. Excellent. It's underway. All right, back to some butterflies. We're just bouncing all over the place tonight. Oh, before I go back to butterflies, just so all of my images of the falls have been mostly of either the Horseshoe Falls or the American Falls, but this is what it looks like next to the American Falls. If you've never, whoops, I opened up the raw file, but that's all right. That's all right. I'll close this out in a moment. So there's the American Falls. That's the Rainbow Bridge. That's the bridge I walked across to get from Niagara Falls, New York to Niagara Falls, Canada. That's a scenic overlook on the American side if you don't want to cross. Because once you go through the turnstile on either the beginning of the American side or the beginning of the Canadian side, you are committed to crossing. Or if you like walk halfway across and you want to go back, you still have to present your your documents, your passport, especially if you're going to Canada, passport, vaccination, COVID test result, negative COVID test result. So it's like, do not pass through those turnstiles unless you want to deal with customs. All right. I said more butterflies, and more butterflies you shall have. Yeah, you're next. So on the interior of these owl butterflies, they very rarely have their wings outstretched when they're perched on a branch or a leaf or whatever. They're almost always, wings up. And they're always in that sort of, trying to protect themselves from prey mode. But they're a gorgeous blue inside, which is very nice when they're flapping all over the place. I think we're actually good there. Whoa. That wouldn't do not want to pump up the green all that much. Suddenly it's now a house party. Who called the rave? Oh, so hopefully you all out there had a lovely Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. Hopefully it was calm and tranquil and you got yourselves fat on good food and there were no uncomfortable family BS. Because I operate on the idea that Thanksgiving is a 4-day holiday, like it is in grade school. I basically had, Thanksgiving round one, and then ate leftovers for 4 days, as God intended. Family was out of town for 2 days, and I did not join them. It was so peaceful. I got so much. Good. I even roasted a duck over root vegetables, made cheddar rosemary bread, and we enjoyed triple berry. That sounds delicious. No, I was with April and her parents, and it was a great meal. Absolutely wonderful. April made the stuffing and made some excellent dinner rolls and also made some homemade apple pie. Mm. I had my customary 2 full rounds and dessert. Again, as intended. And if you're ever in the Georgia area, we will cook for you like the fiends you are. And the same for you, Tiny Dragon. If and when you are back up in the Northeast, and if you happen to be passing by my area of New York, come. We will feed you. We will all laugh and grow fat together. I forgot it was Thanksgiving, and when I remember my wife maybe. That's awesome. April made a pumpkin pie just for us the day after Thanksgiving because her family, not real big fans of pumpkin, but we both like it. And pumpkin pie, there's only one way to eat pumpkin pie, and that is with several inches of whipped cream on top of it. Like, maybe more whipped cream than pie. I just know that whenever April makes a pumpkin pie, I have a nice big slab of it. I take out the Ready Whip, and I'll just sit there for, like, 10 seconds. Yes, good. Good. Higher. Yes, good. I thought the ratio is 1 can of whipped cream or tub of Cool Whip per slice. Yes, that is correct, Battle Chaser. No, yep. And then April will look at me and she goes, "Would you like some pumpkin pie with your whipped cream?" Excellent, Tiny Dragon. That's good to know. Ooh. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I like that. Let's see how you look on Max Black. Too much. No, that's better. That is a much better black. Yeah, I don't want to lose the shadow detail that's in here. We don't want that. We do not want that. Black and white is also a very that Tiny Dragon, and also black and white is a good way to, if you are working in color, it's a good way to check your tonal value. It's a good way to check your value range, and to see if your image consists of mostly flats instead of having contrast in the different values. Because that's one of my favorite things about working in black and white, as I've mentioned before. When you don't have color to work with, you rely much more on contrast and value. They become your great friends. Okay. Got about 5-10 minutes, so one more for tonight. And then we'll recap it all. This one I will edit off stream, but please enjoy this really not at all suggestive image of two dragonflies fully embracing in the power of love. Last one for tonight. I think I'll find a lot of my color because very oversaid. They're hugging. Yes. What do you mean? They're clearly roommates, and there was only one bed. Or one leaf. This species of butterfly is known as a queen. It's called the queen butterfly. It's like I definitely would... Again, some of these will be going up on my Redbubble store this week. I'd like to get them up before I go to Las Vegas next week and give certain people, Icarus, more ways to spend their money on me. I have no shame. There's clearly been an erosion of morals around that tree. I have never heard it quite put like that. I might be stealing that. I might steal an erosion of morals. Oh, well done, sir. Nope. I always get fooled by, when I'm fiddling around with the hue saturation layer, the greens, because I look at this image and I see a whole bunch of green, but when I fiddle around with the sliders, like nothing happens. And then when I go way up the saturation scale, that's when I see what the true green pixels actually are. So I wound up using more of the yellow slider. It all starts with innocent fluttering. Keep those wings far apart. Leave room for butterfly Jesus. He went into a cocoon and re-emerged for our sins. Welcome, you have now reached Irreverent Hour on the eRoivis stream. Actually, that's not entirely true. I'm usually irreverent. Apologies to those. Now I'm thinking about how absolutely bananas it is that caterpillars turn into a puddle of goosh in their cocoons and entirely reform as butterflies. Isn't evolution wonderful, Tiny Dragon? I mean, life has only been around on this planet for 3.5 billion years. It's had some time to figure out a few things. You could even... Oh. No, no, sorry. I'm gonna... No, sorry, no.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Just... Transmogrifying. Filled my quota, you're welcome.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
All right, let's slap a black and white on. It was, it was too good. All right. Well, I'll be here all night. I'll tell the stream ends. It does. It does. All right. Well, we have hit the 2 hour mark, so let's do our recap of what I worked on this evening. Because I always like to end my art streams with a bit of that. So these are in no particular order. Now let's shift up some music here. Where are ya? It's music that has just become my recap music for some strange reason, but it works. All right, let's drag bridge over. All right, so we have our Horseshoe Falls image, and it's black and white. We have our night image of the American Falls. And our night of the Horseshoe Falls. Thank you, Tiny Dragon. And then we have some wildlife. We have our owl a owl butterfly, and it's black and white. Then we have this fun guy. The butterfly knows things. Well, this is the one we ended with, but we've got a few more to go. Our Queenie. Another owl. And then we have a few birds. We have our finch. Our parrot. And then our girl with a pearl earring bird. So that is what we worked on. That's what we worked on this evening. So again, if you are interested in my artwork, type in !art. It'll take you to my card page, which is my link aggregate. You can check out my Instagram, Redbubble, Vero, website, Patreon, all of that fun stuff. And my next stream will be this Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. which I will play some more Final Fantasy IV before I'm off for a week. So, with that, before I bid you farewell, go throw money at Jay Renzella. His Kickstarter went live a little more than 2 hours ago for his woodcut graphic novel. And with that, stay healthy, stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated, get your boosters, all of that fun stuff. Stay safe out there. Good night, and joy be with you all, everyone. Be well, and hopefully I'll see you Friday night.